So, what are your international expansion plans when it comes to, say, South Asian countries and this side of the world?
Sure. So we've operate today in the APAC region in Australia, New Zealand, China, Korea, Japan. We just opened with our foundation Thailand. We will be also looking at opening India with our foundation. And then there's discussion around Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand are some markets for our for-profit that's looking, that we're looking at. And hopefully we'll open up at least one or two of those in the coming years.
So, I didn't understand. So, the foundation part is different than the
Yes.
making
Yeah.
wing of
So the foundation tries to bring the Terracycle idea with
Mhm.
models that don't today work from a for-profit context.
Okay.
So, for example, in Thailand, the Terracycle Foundation, which is set up to run river cleanups, we have already a couple of devices in rivers in Bangkok that are cleaning the rivers before the garbage that's floating in them enters the ocean. So that's done through a foundation model today, funding from companies like the PepsiCo Foundation, who's helping us there. There could be at some point us operating in Thailand both as a social for-profit and as a foundation, but for now as a foundation.
So, how long did that take for you to, get that rapport established with the brands and organizations to work with you? Because it would have been very difficult to crack it for the first time, right?
You mean in the foundation?
No, I'm talking about starting with the
Oh,
organizations and brands in the first place when you
yeah,
started. Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, like anything, it's very difficult the first time around, but then as you get, prove some success, create some case studies, it creates its own momentum. So now, we're not a startup anymore. We're about this year we'll do a little bit under 50 million in revenue. So not huge, but more of a growth business at this point.
That's
Um,
huge. You don't
Sorry?
have to be honest about that. That's huge, I said.
No, no, no. I think billions is huge. So at least we have, big ambitions. I would be disappointed if this is, would be the peak of our business. I think there's a long way to go. But we're happy in, where we are today. And the look, any of these things, it's very hard at the beginning. But then as you create good case studies and leverage those, you can really create a snowball. So I'd say that's my biggest message to any social entrepreneur is it's going to be very hard, to convince the first few partners to work with you.
Mm.
And you've got to work, really diligently and do everything you can to get their trust. And then from there, it should snowball.
So, how do you think the programs on awareness and trying to influence behavioral change in the consumers? How is that going to make your work easy? How is
Well,
that
look, I
going?
think all of this is driven by the consumer. What I've noticed in the past, if I look at the past 15 years, during that time, everyone's always said garbage is a problem. But it's in the past 2 years that garbage has really moved to a crisis. And that's all driven by consumers waking up and being angry. And we're seeing that manifest all over the world. And the more consumers care, the more people talk about it, the more companies will want to innovate against it because they're here to serve, the consumers' desires. And so I'm really lucky, and grateful that consumers are and individuals care. We just have to maintain that and keep growing, the level of concern for the environment because then more things will come.
For a country which is, say, not as much, in terms of awareness, if that is not ready to accept the TerraCycle model, then how would you want to break through?
Well, that's a key challenge. It really starts with people in the country voicing their concern. Because if they don't voice their concern, then partners I would go to get funding would not be open to doing so. The more people speak up, the more easier it is for companies like mine to enter into those markets and to solve those needs. Because we have to enter based on need, not just because we think there's a problem to solve.
So I'm just getting back to one question which is actually derived from one of the concepts you had mentioned earlier. That is, how does culture, technology, and compliance play a role in eliminating the idea of waste? Because each of these three has been, you know, connected to the generation of waste in some form or the other, and also to the elimination of waste in some form or the other.
Sure, sure. Look, I think culture is probably the most important of the three. People have to be concerned about the problem and be willing to change their approach. The best change to do is how do you buy things, the relationship with what you buy, and buy things that are either reusable or long lasting, or if disposable and short life, that they can be recycled in the local communities. I think this is very
I'm so
important.
sorry to just interrupt here for a minute because that somewhere goes in contradiction with what brands want to do. On one hand, they want more and more of their products to be sold because that makes business sense to them.
Yeah.
So, how do we correlate this idea of buying less to the brands and organizations who believe in, circular economy?
Well, the idea of buying less is an individual decision. It's not a brand decision, right? Brands will, as you say, want to sell more. There's no
Okay.
question. But
Yeah.
the individual is who can really affect the idea of what they purchase and how much they purchase. And
Mhm.
culture is defined by the collective individual, right?
Right.
So when you say, what are the different things, systems, culture and so on, culture, I think, is something that the individual needs to look at and is not a question for business to contemplate. I think
Sure.
then as it pertains to the business side, as more and more culture shifts, then
Mhm.
businesses will need to innovate into that cultural shift to stay relevant. It's why, for example, Loop is seeing a lot of success is because businesses are saying, we need to be able to foster a world where the idea of waste doesn't exist. And we hear consumers demanding that, especially in Western markets. And
Right.
we will innovate against that. It's why, Loop is now live in France and the US and launching soon in the UK and then Canada and then Japan and Germany and Australia, all these places. It's because consumers are really asking for these type of
Mhm.
systems to come. Look, compliance and the more laws around these systems, the better. So lawmakers, should keep passing legislation. That's more of the stick, helping. The carrot is more about innovating to the consumer's desires. Um, and the more of these sort of things, the better. I can't underestimate that, and that's up for the lawmakers if they have the appetite and the legislative power to do so. They should try to do that.
It's wonderful, very nicely explained. So, from your experience, some of the best stories that you would want to quote, especially say from the earlier years when you just started, who was your first customer and how did you convince and what were the challenges?
Look, I think the best way for me to answer this question is not by directly answering it. I think the important thing, there's tons of challenges that are always going to come up in any business, especially in purposeful business where you have multiple bottom lines to worry about. I think the important thing in this journey is to have a center purpose. Our center purpose is to eliminate the idea of waste, to be
Right.
very flexible in how you accomplish that because things will shift very quickly. Um, and then to always look for critical feedback, because it's only through critical feedback that you can actually learn and strengthen whatever idea or project you have. And you're going to get a lot of that at the beginning, so you should really cherish that and keep adapting and pivoting as much as possible. Because we make mistakes every day. The question is, do we repeat the mistake, or do we learn from it and become a better organization?
That's very important. So, I'm sure the focus on research must be pretty high in Terracycle because the moment you conceive any new product or think of upcycling or recycling, there is a detailed analysis of the product's anatomy and its entire life cycle that needs to be done, right?
Absolutely. No, I mean, there's a lot of R&D. We have sort of two major focuses on R&D here. One is on the Terracycle side, which is how do we recycle different materials?
Right.
And then on the other side is the loop side, which is about how do we clean and how do we make durable containers. Those are the two major areas of R&D that we have. And of course, as you say, we also do a lot on the life cycle analysis, or LCAs, of our
Right.
various platforms. Yeah, absolutely.
So, any concluding thoughts from your end for the audiences? We have our audience in more than 160 countries across the world.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you're already present in 21 countries, the major territories you're already influencing. But this is for the larger ones who are not yet in your, purview.
Look, I think it's an exciting time for sustainable business. If you are thinking about creating a sustainable business, I reckon it's a great time to do so, and to use capitalism for the power of purpose is a wonderful thing. It feels gives you a lot of purpose. You feel really good in doing your job, and you can also make some money along the way. Um, the key thing I would look at is, whatever purpose you're going to go after, whatever problem you want to solve, is understand why that problem exists. Really digest that before just trying to jump in and solve it, because you may come up with a lot of interesting innovation by dissecting and really contemplating, why does the problem why did it come about, and what are the rules that govern it before you just jump in to try to solve it?
Okay, thank you so much, Tom. That was really a pleasure having you on our show.
It was
Um, Okay, just one more question that may not be part of the interview, and maybe you can decide later. So that's about how do you form this partner ecosystem, the kind of people you work with. You just mentioned that you're working with startups and the organizations in the entire, uh, you know, um, in the circular loop that they can buy from you and they can even contribute in various areas.
yeah.
So
So how
how
do you
does
look? I think that's it's one of those things that take time. I think at the beginning, you have one sort of idea, one sort of offering, but then as you thicken your solutions around a central issue, like eliminating the idea of waste, your
yeah.
solutions may start, creating an ecosystem of different opportunities for partners to work with you on. So I think, that comes over time. But also it comes with the focus, around one central mission. And again, for us, this is this topic of eliminating the idea of waste.